Okay, hello everyone, and I'm going to be talking about what your assignment is going to be for today. So you should be able to see in Google Classroom this Google Slides activity that's called Korematsu versus the United States. I'm going to go through the instructions with you guys and give you a little bit of background on like what the Korematsu case was about, and then you guys are going to work the rest of the hour completing the activity. So if we flip to the next slide here, you can see it's talking about you'll be sorting the evidence of the Korematsu case and make a decision on the trial. In order to do that, you need to think about the amendments in which Korematsu was protesting that his rights were being violated, and then also look at like what did Korematsu do, like what's the story behind Fred Korematsu. So you guys are going to be filling out this slide, the 5th and 14th Amendment, and then the story of Fred Korematsu while you're listening to me talk about those two things. So we are going to talk about the 5th and the 14th Amendment first. And while I'm talking about it, you need to record two main ideas for each amendment. So like I would just type down in this text box Fifth Amendment and then write two things, and then the 14th Amendment and write two things. So I'm going to transition to a different little slideshow here to talk about what those amendments are, and then we'll come back and then we will do the Fred Korematsu story. So, my little cheat sheet here for the 5th and the 14th Amendments. Remember, you are writing down two things for each one on your slideshow. We're first going to talk about the 5th Amendment. Now, I'm not going to read all of that, but as you can see, it's a hefty one. It's not just like freedom of speech, press, assembly, etc. It's a little bit more wordy, and there's a lot of things that are included within the 5th Amendment. So this next slide is going to simplify it. And we'll talk about what's all included in your 5th Amendment rights. So first of all, like every citizen of the United States has a right to a trial by jury. Okay, every citizen of the United States has a right to a trial by jury, a trial of a jury of their peers. Okay, so that is a right granted to you by the 5th Amendment. Also, the 5th Amendment forbids double jeopardy. What double jeopardy means is that you cannot be tried for the same crime twice. So, for example, like OJ, when he was found not guilty in his trial, he could not be tried for that same crime twice, okay, in that same type of court. Could be a different type of court, or it could be for a different crime in which, if you know the OJ story, he gets in trouble in Las Vegas and ends up going to jail for a different crime. But he was found not guilty of murder, and like that's what it was going to be, because according to this, you cannot be tried for the same crime twice. The 5th Amendment also protects against self-incrimination. And so you'll sometimes see in like movies and stuff like that where people say, I plead the 5th. That means they don't have to like say things that could find themselves guilty. Okay. And so they have that privilege of not being able to testify against themselves, and they will say, I plead the 5th, or will not answer. And then you also have the right to due process. And what that fancy word means, due process, is mean like the fairness, the notification, the right to defend yourself in court. So kind of talking about like going through the process of getting a trial and like getting a fair trial, being notified of your crimes or what you're being convicted of, the right to like go to a trial and defend yourself if you want to, or like to have a lawyer, things like that. So just going through the process of the courts, like every citizen of the United States has that when they've been accused of a crime. And then you also, the other one in there that doesn't like really match, you'll notice all of these are kind of all about trials. And then the last one just kind of thrown in there, it is the just compensation clause, which talks about eminent domain. So basically the government can't just take your land without fair compensation. So if you have land out there, like the government just can't say it's mine now without compensating you for that. And there's some different rules around that as well too, but that's all included in the 5th Amendment. So that's a pretty hefty amendment, includes all those different things. And so make sure you've written down two main ideas of the 5th Amendment. If the sub needs to stop the video to let you guys type, we can. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going on to talk about the 14th Amendment. So in general, the 5th Amendment protects your rights and protects us from the government potentially abusing their power. Okay, or from people in high up positions from abusing that power and like taking away, the rights to a trial and things like that of an ordinary civilian. So this is the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was a Civil War amendment. Okay, so it was one of the 3 amendments after the Civil War. And in short and simplified, basically, if you are born in America, you are a citizen of the United States. Okay, if you are born in America, you are a citizen of the United States. And as a citizen of the United States, you are guaranteed equal protection and due process under the law. It does not matter what gender you are, what race you are, or anything like that. If you are a citizen of the United States, you get equal protection and due process under the law. And we talked about what that word meant, like due process. So like the right to a trial, things of that nature. So it protects a person's basic rights. And basically, like, when this was created, we look at what was going on during the time period, and you had the whole issue of slavery, and people like these newly freed people are now going to be citizens, and they want to make sure those citizens are not being discriminated against based on their race. And so this is saying it does not matter who you are. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, you have equal protection under the law. And so you can see it deals mostly with discrimination cases, so like Plessy versus Ferguson, Brown versus Board of Education. And you'll see in the case of Japanese internment, in the case of Fred Korematsu, he's going to be talking about that he didn't get due process, and that he is a citizen of the United States and wasn't granted due process and isn't getting equal protection under the law because they're using the fact that he's Japanese to discriminate against him. So that is the 14th Amendment. And once again, it protects your rights and protects the people from the government and their potential abuse of power. It's to make sure everyone is granted those freedoms and those rights and being treated equally as a citizen of the United States of America. So that is the 5th and the 14th Amendment. And so hopefully you have filled out 2 things for the 5th and 2 things through the 14th Amendment on there. I am going to link this video to the assignment. So if you guys if I went too fast, you can always go back and look at the video if you want to. Now, I am going to read the story of Fred Korematsu, and it says, record any key ideas that stick out to you. I want you guys to write down at least 5 different key ideas of the Fred Korematsu story. So like, who is he? What did he get in trouble for? What's the situation going on there? Pick out 5 things there. You can see down here there's a link to the story that you can pull up on your screen. I'll have it up here as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and read the Fred Korematsu story to you guys. It's just a page here. So, born in 1919, Fred Korematsu grew up in Oakland as one of the 4 sons of Japanese immigrants. His family owned a rose nursery, and he attended Castlemont High School, where his closest friends and girlfriend were Caucasian. Being born in this country, I learned about American history, and this was my country, he remembers. I just thought of myself as an American. After graduation from high school in 1938, he attended the Master's School of Welding and went to work on the Oakland docks as a steel worker, or welder, where he was quickly promoted to a foreman position. So his parents are from Japan, but he was born in Oakland. So he's a second generation Japanese descendant, but he is an American citizen. The war in Europe, however, changed his life. America began providing war supplies to Great Britain in their war against Germany. And while German allies, the Japanese waged war in Asia and the Pacific. At home in California, when Mr. Korematsu entered restaurants, waiters refused to serve him. The same thing was happening when he tried to get his hair cut. When he tried to join the United States Coast Guard, along with his Caucasian friends, he was not allowed to fill out an application. "We have orders not to accept you," he was told by the recruiting officer. Later, a commanding officer even forbade one of his friends from associating with him. The Boilermakers Union terminated his membership. So that's like a union, and they didn't allow him to be a part of the union. Eventually, he found work with a trailer mobile company. But after the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor in December of 1941, his employer fired him. On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, authorizing the military commanders on the West Coast to issue whatever orders were necessary for national security. Curfew and exclusionary orders soon followed. Although his family reported to the Tanforan Racetrack Assembly Center in San Mateo on May 9, 1942, as directed by Executive Order Number 34, 22-year-old Fred Korematsu chose to defy the order. With his Caucasian girlfriend, Mr. Korematsu planned to move inland to Nevada. He sold his car, he threw away his California driver's license, and on his draft card assumed a new identity as Clyde Serra, a Las Vegas-born Spanish Hawaiian. Mr. Korematsu even had plastic surgery in an attempt to change his appearance. Nevertheless, the police stopped him on May 30th, 1942, in San Leandro, California, and turned him over to the FBI. Mr. Korematsu was charged with violating the military's exclusion order, and a newspaper headline read, "Japanese spy arrested in San Leandro." So you can see from the story, Fred's family all went to the racetrack where they were told to go. However, Fred refused to go, and he tried to change his identity and things like that, and tried to go flee to Nevada. However, he was caught, and then is going to be turned over to the FBI then. So eventually, Fred protests and goes to court over this, and he's going to say, I'm an American citizen, my rights are being violated, I've done nothing wrong to prove that I'm an enemy of the state. Why am I being forced to go somewhere? And that's what this trial is going to be about. And so hopefully you guys were able to write down 5 points about the Fred Korematsu story. And so now you're going to look at the defense and the prosecution. Okay, so the defense is the ones who are defending Fred. Okay, so the defendant is Fred, and the defense are witnesses that would support Fred's side. The prosecution are the witnesses that would go against Fred. Those are the witnesses that the government would use to prove that he was guilty of violating Order 9066. So the government's trying to say, he's guilty of violating this order. He's considered a threat to the country, while Fred's trying to say, well, this order violates my civil rights as an American citizen because I never was put on trial and found guilty of espionage in the first place. So you guys are going to go look at each of these people. So like John L. DeWitt, you'll decide, is he for the defense? So if this is someone that would help Fred, you put his name under defense. If this is someone that would hurt Fred's case, then you put him under prosecution. Ralph Lazo, Curtis B. Munson, Mike Mazoka, FDR, and then Fred himself. Okay, so you'll see there should be 3 on each one. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 witnesses. So there'll be 3 on the defense and 3 on the prosecution. Then you're looking at what is each side trying to make? So what is the defense trying to say and what is the prosecution trying to say then? And then I want you to decide, is Fred guilty or not guilty? What do you think? Should Fred be convicted? Why or why not? And so you're going to put your response there. If should he be convicted? Is he found guilty? Or no, he's not found guilty. And then tell me why. If there is some time left, I may have the sub play one of these 2 videos for you then. If everyone gets done. If everyone's not done, then we'll probably just wait and look at some of this stuff later. So you do need to get this whole PowerPoint done by the time class is over. Or not by the time class is over because it's not due till Sunday, but preferably so you don't have homework, you get it done while you're working in class. So with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday. You can email me if you have any questions. I will see you on Monday. Bye.